Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. Today I want to share with you the essential security tips for web developers. While you're developing websites, you should know security measures you should take to protect your websites and to protect the information, user data. Okay, so please, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to this channel because we'll be coming up with more useful videos for web developers. And also don't forget to click on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever we post more videos, and share this video and like. Okay, so let's just get started. So the first tip I want to share is software update. Keep your software updated. So what you should do is to regularly update your web development frameworks. If you're using frameworks, and also if you're using a content management system, always update the plugins to patch known vulnerability issues. Sorry for that. So that's the first security tip. The second one we're going to look at is the cross-site scripting or prevention. Okay, this happens when users submit malicious scripts as a user input and redirect your user to their website, and they can have those users do something that they do not really want to do without even knowing that they are doing it. Okay, so one of the ways to prevent this is to always validate your user input or sanitize it. So here I'm using an example of unsanitized input. This code is actually from PHP. So what happens is this user gets the user input and processes his information with this user input without sanitizing it. Now a user might decide to submit a JavaScript code here, and this will alert. It might not just be a simple alert. It could be updating lines of code of JavaScript that does something for the malicious user. So the way to get around this, if you're using PHP, is to sanitize your input using the HTML special chars. So what this does is it converts the less than and the greater than, converts it to something like this, and then converts the greater than to something like this, and then it renders the user input as a simple text instead of a code. Okay, so it will prevent your browser from reading it as a code, from interpreting it as a JavaScript code. So it will simply interpret it as just a plain text. Okay, so this is what you should do. So the next tip is the SQL injection prevention. This particular attack is always against your database. So a malicious user might decide to get into your database, get into information that he or she should not that he or she should not get. Okay, so the way to get around this is to use prepare statements or the parameterize queries to prevent SQL injection attacks by malicious users. So I'm still taking an example from PHP. So it is not safe for you to just get user input and then include it in the query. This is the query that's being run. So the user might decide in the place of this, he might decide to write a query. So if he writes a query and then you include a query into this, your database is going to interpret it as a query and then return results. This is a manipulation. It might return records that the user should not see, or the record that should not be made available to the users. Okay, and then he can attack your database. All right, so the way to solve this problem is to use a prepare statement. So here I'm still using PHP. This is SQLite. So prepare statement. So what it does is we get a connection, a database connection, and then we are using a placeholder. So here we are not including whatever the user brings into this place. So we're using a placeholder. Okay, and then this is where we are inserting it. So what this simply does is it's going to treat whatever that comes in. When we use prepared statement, it's going to treat whatever that comes in as a data. Instead of executable SQL code. This is where to get around this SQL injection. So okay, so let's go to the next tip. The next tip is to use a secure password storage. A lot of people just type in a password. They could type in a password in plain text, maybe 1234. It is mostly in plain text. So it is not advisable for you to store those passwords in plain text in your database. I mean, if anyone should have access to your database, they could just simply read out this password and use it, against your website. So the way to get around this is an example from from Python. Sorry, from Python. So it is insecure for you to just get the user's input and then store it. So here it is writing it to a file, writing the password to a file. This is very wrong. You should never do this. So the way to get around this is to hash the password. Is to get it hashed. So here we're using hash. So you hash the password and then encode it. So this we have to store the password not in plain text in your database, but it's gonna install it as a hashed. And then when someone gains access to your database and looks at those hashed past texts, they can't understand what it means. I mean, it is gonna be too long. I mean, it's not something they can just think about to get access to it. So this really helps. Never use store your password either in the database or in a text file in a plain text. It is very, very dangerous, and it causes surely it will cause security vulnerabilities. Okay, so the next one is the session management. Okay, so it's really good for you to ensure section handling, including generating unique section IDs using HTTPS and then implementing section timeout. So I'm having an example of I think this is from Python. Yeah, that's from Python. So what you should do, so here I'm using an example of if the user is authenticated, generate a session ID. So before once the user is being authenticated, that means the user entered the correct password and then the correct email address. So what you should do is to generate a session ID using a secret token. This is a function. So it is not correct for you to generate a section ID using just the user's name. This will cause potential harm to your website. So it is more secure for you to generate a section ID with this function. I mean, this is from Flask, Python Flask. Okay, so I mean, it doesn't matter the language you're using, either PHP, Python, Java, whatever language you're using, but just ensure that you manage your sections very well. I mean, this is another security tip. So we're looking to the next one. The next one is a content security policy. So implementing CSSP headers to restrict the sources from which your web page can load content, helping to mitigate XSS attacks. So here in your method, that is in the header. So you when you add a method, so this tells the browser or the page that can be loaded. Now it is insecure for you to use or. Now this asterisk means or. That means you have to load every page from any source. Load images from any source, load pages from any source, load script from any source. This is wrong. I mean, this is not secure. It is really insecure. So the best way to do it is to specify the content that can be loaded. So for instance, what I have here is, so I have the content security policy, content default source. It's going to be from self-trusted domain. Then you create a trusted domain here. Then you have script. This for script. Okay. So you have the self and trusted domain, those trusted scripts. Then you have for images. So you can include as many as possible. This is going to help to solve some security vulnerability issues. Okay. So we go to the next one. This is cross-site request forgery. So use anti-cross-site request forgery tokens to validate and verify that requests come from legitimate sources. Okay, so this is this one is one of the top. I mean, if you're a Laravel developer, you will notice that in any form that you submit into Laravel application, you must include a CSRF token. Okay, so what this does is to validate. It includes a unique anti-CSRF token in each form that user submit. So when a user submits the form, the server verifies that the token matches the one assigned to the user section. So this checks the origin of the incoming request, ensuring that requests only come from trusted domains. So this does not allow requests that come from untrusted domains. Okay, so this I have to check if you are really the one making the request. So if you're not the one making the request, they're going to reject the request. Okay, that's what this does. So we get to the next one, access control authorization. So implement proper access controls to ensure that users can only access the data and feature they are authorized to use. So this boils down to users. You know, in developing a website, you could have user role where you have something like an author, you may have admin, you have user, you may have authors. So you have to implement access control that only enables users to access those information, only those information that they are supposed to access. So you should ensure that the user do not access information that the admin should access, and also the users should not access the information that maybe authors and instructors are to access. Okay, this will not. This will ensure that your site is secure. Because if a user should access the information that admin access, then there's a problem. The malicious user can get hold of those data and then use it against the website. I mean, can do anything he wants to do with it. Okay, so the next one is your file upload security. So if your website allows file uploads, ensure that files are scanned for malware and then are stored in a secure location. Limit file types and implement strict validation. So for all the files that are going to be uploaded to your website, you have to validate them. First of all, you validate them, then you have to specify the type and make sure you scan them, because those files can contain script that can harm your website or that could make your website more vulnerable. All right. Okay, so we go to the next. So the next one is error handling and then error messages. Now, a lot of beginners might like to, for instance, on the login page, a user tries to log in, you might like to tell the user, oh, your password is incorrect. And then the user tries to log in again, say, oh, your username is incorrect. So in this case, you have to be very cautious about the information reviewed in error messages. Only show generic error messages to users and log details error information at the server. So for the user, do not give them a specific message of what is going on. Just give them a generic message. Your password or your username is incorrect, or your password or username does not, something like that. Do not just give them a generic error message. Don't give them a specific error message. That could be too insecure. All right, too bad if there's anything like that. All right, so we're going to the next one. That's the HTTPS encryption. Use HTTPS to encrypt data in transit, protecting sensitive information from interception and then tampering. So in all your website, make sure you implement the HTTPS. Do not just use HTTP. So HTTP, the S there stands for secure. So it means all the data you are transferring, you are sending, or the data you're sending or receiving, they are secure, that they cannot be tampered along the way. Okay, so that's that. So we go to the next one, that is data backup. So regularly back up your website and data, and have a disaster recovery plan in case of data loss or breaches. So it's a good idea for you to back up your website. I mean, something can happen, you never can tell. There could be a problem where you lost the data. So having a backup is a good idea, because it will ensure that you have a backup of it. So in case anything goes wrong, then you will have something to fall back to. Okay, all right. So we go to the next one. Third-party libraries. So be cautious with third-party libraries and then components. Ensure they are up to date and come from trusted sources. Do not just go to online and download any library that you want to use, maybe any plugin. Make sure that those plugins are coming from trusted users, because hackers could develop plugins and then have some code run on the background that gives them information about what is going on in your website. So you have to be sure that those plugins are up to date, those libraries are up to date, and they are from trusted sources. Don't just download anyone. And I could say sometimes it's good you avoid free plugins. Sometimes yeah. Okay. So we get to the last one, but that's data validation. So you should ensure that all data are being validated, and then before you are storing them. So validate and sanitize all user input to prevent data manipulation and injection attacks. So validate all your data, validate them. If you're working with JavaScript, validate them with JavaScript, that's on the front end, and also validate them with the back end. If you're working with any back end language. So make sure those input are being validated in both sides, and then they are also being sanitized. This will help you to have a more secured website. All right, guys, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. I just hope that this helps you. I hope you understand. If you have any question, please comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit on the like buttons, hit on the notification bell. We are uploading more videos, so you get notified as soon as they land. All right, so thank you very much for staying with me to this time. Bye.